welcome back to Listen for Real. Hi, friends. How are you? It is so good to be back in what I call the virtual living room with my people. I am so excited for you to meet Melissa Hoffman. She is with us today. Hey, Melissa.
Hi, Jen. Hi, everyone.
I'm glad you're here. So we're talking some fun stuff today. And I met Melissa very recently. And what I love about what she does, she is not only a fellow podcaster, so yay that for women podcasters. I love it. Her podcast is Pivot Toward Your Purpose, right, Melissa?
Pivot into your purpose.
Into your purpose. Okay. Into, toward, but pivot into your purpose. But what I loved about this is she, like myself, is a mom, but she knew how much it mattered to her to do what felt in alignment to her, not just to do a job to make money for the sake of doing that, but to work in such a way that it supported her role as a mom and allowed her creative expression and to get out and do the things that she felt purpose to do, and that both were possible. And I really like that because Melissa, you know, this whole premise here is that I'm kind of trying to blow up my own echo chamber. And when I was a stay-at-home mom, so my kids are now 24 and 18. So I am just about at the finish line. But when I had my daughter, I decided to be a stay-at-home mom. And I was of the mindset at that time, I'm not going to lie. I was kind of militant about how important that was. I thought that was the be all end all. You absolutely, if you were a dedicated mom, you would make it a priority to be at home unless you absolutely had to work. I never understood people who said, oh, I'm bored, or I really can't I could not possibly be home all day. I'd go crazy. I really took a negative, judgmental tone and attitude, I think, towards that. I'm just going to out myself on that because that's half the battle of this podcast is I need to out where I've been because there may be people who are still in that space. And this is a podcast where we talk about everything because what I'm understanding now, and as I have grown in my own journey, and now as I thrive in my career, I'm realizing so much of what we need to be is a stand for other women and other people and not this way is the only way kind of mentality. And you and I had a great conversation when we first met over coffee. And I loved it because it was just all about possibility and what is possible for us and what's possible for women. So will you just share a little more about you? Say hello to everyone. Let them get to know you a little bit and maybe the genesis of your process, because it isn't that you haven't worked in certain environments. You've gone a number of directions. So I just want people to have a little bit of an understanding of you and that you know of what you speak as a result.
Yes. Well, I started my podcast because I have pivoted in so many times in so many different directions. And, you know, like I had the way I was brought up, there were certain ideas of like what you were supposed to do, like not only as someone, you know, who wanted to be successful, but also like as a woman, as a mother. And so, you know, I was on the track of you go to college, you get a good job, and it's not about like how much money you make, or it's not about fulfillment. It's just like you get a job and you pay your bills and then you get married and have kids and you stay home, or, you know, or maybe you do have to work. And so I had that mentality, but also in the back of my mind, there was always this like, I don't know about that, like a rebellious streak that was kind of like telling me like, I don't really think that you're meant for this. But I was so like conditioned to, you know, be a good girl and, you know, like be a like pleasing woman and follow directions and follow authority. And so I went to college and then I got a job as a teacher and I was like, oh, everybody's like, oh, that's a great career. But I was making no money and I was so stressed out and I didn't enjoy what I was doing. And so then I thought, well, maybe I just need to make more money. And so I went the route of becoming a pharmaceutical sales rep because at the time it was like early 2000s, like that was the job to get. Like
Totally.
everyone wanted to get into pharmaceutical sales. It was supposed to be super cushy. You made great money. And so I got a job as a pharmaceutical sales rep, and it was good for, a couple of years. And then I just like started to realize like, I don't think this is it. Like, I'm not happy with what I'm doing. I don't feel like I'm making a difference, like for like an impact in people's lives, like positively. The company would try to tell you like, oh yeah, you're helping getting this medication in the hands of the doctors or the patients. And really it was just about them making money. Like they don't care.
Yeah.
And so I just thought, well, maybe it's the company. And so I switched companies and it was the same thing. And I just had like, I was so micromanaged and it was super, like a male dominated industry where yes, there was a lot of female reps, but it was like, oh, well, if you're a pharmaceutical rep, like you're supposed to be like pretty and you flirt with the doctors and the doctors would flirt with you. And it was just all about like appearances and being pleasing. And then it was the men that got to like move up in the company and, were the ones that were, in charge basically and, winning the awards and, making the most money and everything. And I just like was really disgusted with like what I was doing with the industry and just like really felt like you're meant for more than this. Like you really settled in this career and people thought I was crazy, like wanting to leave and that I was unhappy. And my unhappiness just got so bad that I felt like I didn't know how to get out of it. And I felt really stuck and depressed and like starting to get like physically ill. And I just knew I had to get out of it. And at that point, I was like, I don't even care like if I'm making a lot of money, although I do want to make money. And I feel like I'm capped here. Like they are in charge of how much I make and if I receive my bonus and if I get a raise and all of the things. And so I just kind of started to think like, what if there was another way? Like, what if I could get out of this and find a career that made me happy, that gave me the freedom that I was like searching for and where I got to be in charge of everything. And I didn't have to be controlled by someone else in this male dominated company. And so it took a while, but I got clear on like at the time what I wanted to do was be a makeup artist because I was a creative person and I was really into beauty and I had a lot of like interests and I loved people and I wanted to make an impact. And so what came to me was like, oh, you should be a makeup artist. And so which was like totally like different than what I was doing.
Oh, a complete departure. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I, started to like figure out how I could be a makeup artist and create this business. And that was like what really appealed to me was having my own business and being in charge of everything. And, like how much I made, when I worked, where I worked, who I worked with, all of the things. And so I started to like make my plan of leaving my corporate job and everyone thought I was crazy. And it was like 2009 and we just had the, housing crash, the recession. And it was not really a good time to leave your, stable job. But what was funny is things totally changed in the pharmaceutical industry because as I was getting ready to leave, they were downsizing a lot and they were completely like restructuring things and they were having to cut back on the way they had been doing things. And a lot of my friends lost their jobs. And so it wasn't stable anymore. And unfortunately, I didn't, get laid off and get a nice severance package, but I quit before all of that. But I remember the company that I was working for, I think they let go of like 60% of their sales force, like right after I left.
Wow.
Which was crazy. And so it really showed that nothing is stable. Nothing is secure. Nothing is like a sure thing. And so, I left and I started building my business. And at the same time, like really diving into personal development, because as you know, when you're an entrepreneur, you go through everything and it's really just a lesson in personal development and learning how to like hold everything, all the highs and the lows and just trying to be the best person you can. And so, so I built a successful luxury makeup business and I did that for about 12 years. And about 7 years into it, I started to again get this like inner voice telling me like, it's time to change. Like this isn't it anymore, because I was working with women and it was great. I was making them feel good about themselves for this day, but I could also see that there was potential to make an even bigger impact and to really, transform the way that they felt about themselves, like more long term rather than just on this one day.
Yeah.
And so I started to get curious about what that could be. And I was working with a lot of coaches at the time doing personal branding shoots. And I was just finding myself wanting to be like them, like wanting to have this business. And I had kind of realized that I had created a business that had some of the same, controlling parameters that my previous job had. And so I didn't really have the freedom that I wanted. And freedom is a big value of mine. I talk about it a lot. And so I started to get curious about, okay, what is it that maybe I'm meant to do? And it took me a while to really get confident to even admit to myself what I wanted to do and that I could do it, that I would be good at it. And when the pandemic happened in 2020, like my business shut down because I couldn't be in person with people. And that was how I was working. And I could have shifted things to do like makeup lessons online or different like online strategies. And I just didn't want to do it. I realized like this chapter is complete. I'm ready to move on. And I became a coach. And so now I'm a life coach and I walk women through the same thing and help them to figure out what it is that they really want to do with their work. And, I like to work with entrepreneurs. So mostly it's women that want to start businesses. They want to be an entrepreneur. Maybe they want to be a creative or even a coach. And so I help them figure out what that is and then have the confidence to do it and like really put themselves out there and go for it and believe in themselves, because I'm so passionate about that, about women doing work that they love, that they feel like they're really meant to do, that lights them up, and that they have the freedom to decide what they want their career, their business to look like, what they want their life to look like, and just know that they are good enough exactly as they are. They don't have to be somebody else. They don't have to go get like a business degree or anything. And that they're worthy of it, that they're worthy of having what they want, that they don't have to settle. So I'm super passionate about that. And that's why I do the work that I do. It's why I started the podcast. I share stories of other women who kind of have had similar journeys to me. And even when it's not always women that hated their jobs, sometimes it's just women that needed a change or they found something that lighted them up more. And so they pivoted into that. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell and like what I'm super passionate about.
Okay, there's so much, because what I'm thinking about is when you said, and I think a lot of women experience this, but they don't attribute it to being unhappy perhaps and not in alignment with what they're meant to do. You talked about feeling depressed and physically ill.
Yes.
Okay, how many of us, because I started to think as you were talking, when have I felt that? And was that really about that and not my hormones or all of the other things I would attribute it to? That's really such an important indicator, especially for those of us. I don't know about you, but getting in touch with what lights me up, what excites me, not what's socially approved, because I could fall easily into that category of checking those socially approved boxes. That shows up all over my life, right?
Yeah.
But even knowing, and I'm wondering, did you have this process and do you see this in other women and in all the women you've interviewed? What are the key indicators or things that are the green light of, oh yeah, that feels good. Oh yeah, that does light me up. And because what I'm starting to realize, it's not so much what our rational mind tells us. I feel like there's almost this visceral bodily response. For example, I'm talking with someone and I'm just learning to notice these things in myself to even feel that my body has indicators. And I would get goosebumps all over me when she was talking about an idea. And that for me meant like, oh, I resonate, right?
Yeah.
So did you experience that kind of a physical, because you experienced the negative, the depression and the physical illness? Did you and other women experience the positive so that you could start to identify it and then look for it more as your guide into this pivot and going into the direction you wanted to go? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense. Everybody is different. And so like their responses, like their physical or, their mental, emotional responses. Mm-hmm. For me, it was more about the physical symptoms had gotten so bad. I literally had like my throat close because I felt like I couldn't speak up for myself. And I would get so much tension, so much pain and tightness in my throat. And like every time, like I would hear like my boss's voice on like my company voicemail, I would just get like so tense and my throat would close up and I would get that like, the bad tingles in your body. Like
yes,
that's what I would feel. And so when I thought about what I wanted to do about leaving the job, about starting this business, it would just relax. So for me, it was kind of like the bad symptoms were like going away. And as soon as I quit, like all of that went away. And so of course, like I was nervous about, starting this business. I literally had no idea how to start a business as a makeup artist, but it was so much better. And I just like had such faith in myself that I would figure it out, that all of that, like the depression started to go away and the physical symptoms. And I just felt more relaxed in my body and like lighter. So I think it's just kind of like noticing for the changes in your body. And then also like for me, I couldn't stop thinking about makeup. And so it wasn't necessarily like a physical response, but it was like all I could think about. And it was all I wanted to do was work on, becoming a makeup artist, like researching, trying to like, I would like practice like different looks. I would like see a magazine. I'd be like, oh, let me try and see if I can do that on myself. And, so because it was just like, I was so focused on it, it just like, it gave me the like, almost like the permission, the go ahead, like that this is it. Like, this is what you're supposed to do. So.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that you just said couldn't stop thinking about it, because there's some things even right now that I just don't feel released from. Do you know what I'm saying? Like the thought keeps coming back. The idea keeps coming back. I just keep coming back to it. I'm like, okay, for me, it's taking my work of empowering women and helping them find their voice, but into a retreat space as well of not just my workshops that I currently lead. And I just can't let that go. And so that makes me wonder when you said I couldn't stop thinking about it. That's interesting. And the idea too, that lifting of the dread and the visceral response whenever you'd hear your boss's voice, etc. Gosh, it's so, I feel so badly for women and people in general who are walking into the lion's share of their day, their week, their life, and so unhappy and miserable. And I was just talking on another episode with someone, I think I was talking with Dr. Valerie Rae about patriarchy stress disorder and how that shows up for women in careers. And that this idea that we've got to just put our head down and be miserable, and that there's something valorous in that, and that that's good. And, it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
But many of us were taught work needs to be toil.
Mm-hmm.
And what strikes me is that when you have a bunch of people working in alignment with who they are and what they're meant to do and what their gifting is, that isn't indulgent. It's a necessity, because you have people who are just by and large happier human beings, who are then raising happier human beings, who are then contributing to this world in important ways, and feeling good about it. I mean, that just makes everything for everyone better.
Yeah.
It isn't self-indulgent, but I really did think that was precious and self-indulgent.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm thankful to be shaken out of that.
Yes. Yeah. because probably like our parents and like the generations before them, it was just about, like you get a job and you pay the bills. Like maybe some people enjoyed what they did, but for me, it was always like, oh no, that's just for like some special people, but not like
Mm-hmm.
the majority of people. Like you just get a good job and you pay your bills and, it wasn't about like enjoying what you did. And you were supposed to like live for the weekends, or that's like kind of like what happened is, you would have that Sunday night dread, that Monday morning, like feeling like, anxious. And then like when Friday would come around, it was like, oh, thank God. And, now let me just numb out because of what I experienced during the week. And so, for me, I was drinking a lot and partying a lot because I just needed to release like everything, from my job, all the stress and the anxiety. And it wasn't a good cycle. It wasn't healthy.
Yeah, same. And for me, the drinking and the eating was more of it wasn't about the stress. It was that I wasn't working and doing what lights me up and feels good. So much of me is about thriving and fulfilling, feeling, just expressing and fully experiencing my life. And I wasn't doing that. I felt really tamped down. And so I would drink or eat or do other things that I felt like, oh, okay, this will kind of light things up and make things feel like, oh yeah, this is a full, rich experience, which was a complete counterfeit,
right? And
was not the case. And you just reminded me too of a little Instagram post that I somehow ran across, and it was Steve Harvey, and he was talking about being successful or making a lot of money or something. And he talked about it's $10 at a time. He goes, if you do something that is a $10 thing and you're good at it and it's what you like to do, and then do the $10 thing and do a lot of it. And so what I want to really underscore here is it isn't about wealth or the money or privilege. At least I hope it's not. And if I'm missing that, hopefully someone will call me out, because I often do wonder if I'm speaking from my privilege, and someone could say, well, yeah, that's easy for you to say, Jen. Right?
Right.
So, I want to be careful about that. It isn't about that sense of satisfaction and I'm worthy of doing work that I enjoy and feel good about can look like anything, and can literally. Do you remember that show Undercover Boss? Do you remember that show?
I remember it. I never watched it.
Okay. Let me tell you, I've never forgotten one episode of it. I used to find it fascinating. There was a guy that he cleaned porta potties for a living. Okay, now on its face, I don't think any of us are like, woohoo, yes to cleaning the porta potties. This guy loved his job. He had the best mindset you've ever seen. He relished in he did a job well, and he took great satisfaction. And he was super proud of himself and happy, one of the most fulfilled, happy people. And it was stunning. It was stunning to watch him, stunning to just see his take on his job and his perspective. And so it just reminds me again that it isn't about what you do, whether there are some people who love pharmaceutical sales and they're good at it and they feel good about it. There's other people, oh my gosh, doing makeup. I just know when I've had my makeup done, how amazing I feel. Like if she feels even a quarter of how happy she's making me, cool, right?
Yeah.
And now with coaching and with podcasting, as you are, to see women get lit up at just by virtue of who they are and where they're gifted is so cool. So then I want to ask you, we're going to go to a break, but when we come back, I want to talk about more of that, because I have a feeling there's probably a number of people, not just women, but a number of people who might be listening who that process of being able to search for and feel what suits you. It's like, how does that process even happen? Do you know what I mean? So you've walked through it. You've seen other people walk through it. I've been walking through it the last few years. I'm still figuring it out, honestly. I'd really love to give people a sense of what that looks and feels like. And like to your point earlier, it does look different for everyone, but I'm hopeful that by talking about it, it sends a few, alarm bells to someone goes, oh yeah, that's it. That's me. That's how, oh, okay. That's how I'll kind of start to venture down this road. So let's take a quick break and then we'll dig into that.
Sounds
We'll
good.
be right back. Okay, and we're back. Here's the thing we were just thinking about. One thing that both Melissa and I really want to be clear about is just because this lights us up and entrepreneurship and pursuing our passion is what we're talking about today, it's really important to mention that there are plenty of people who love being a pharmaceutical rep, who love being a teacher, who love doing whatever job it is they do. They love the reliability. They love the predictability of their daily routine. They love their coworkers. That's awesome. I can remember, okay, so Melissa, I used to be in a multi-level network marketing, whatever. There's always a new term for it, but I was in this business for many years. And I was really annoying. I can distinctly remember the mentality in this business was you have got to be your own boss. Jobs are bad. Jobs are terrible. No one, everyone should have freedom. Everyone should be financially independent and be an entrepreneur, et cetera, et cetera. And I can remember I drank that Kool-Aid hook, line, and sinker for many years. And I would absolutely push that business on people. And I did not understand why people didn't see it the way I saw it. And I remember at one point, I was telling this gal, I'll never forget it. Her name was Cindy. And I said, you should check this out. It's so good. And you need this. And she goes, Jen, I love my job. She worked in insurance industry. She goes, I totally like my job. No, I don't need that. And I was like flabbergasted, like, wait, what? But it's true. It's like if everyone was selling lipstick and vitamins and protein shakes, nobody is in the hospitals caring for people. Nobody's writing important insurance policies. Like nobody would be teaching our children.
Right.
I mean, do you see the insanity of it? Oh my gosh. Yeah. So that's really, really an important aspect is this is in support of wherever people are at. And if they're lit up by doing the job they do in a conventional 9 to 5 or whatever it looks like, yay, there's freedom in that. And again, like I said at the beginning, this I truly do believe, we all can be a stand for one another at wherever we find ourselves. So like whether it's being a stay-at-home mom, we're not against women who have careers and raise their kids. We're not against women who don't have children. At least we shouldn't be. We're not against, career women who hopefully aren't against someone who decides to be a stay-at-home mom or a homeschooling mom or whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
But I think the key is, and you tell me what you think, I think we need to get very clear for ourselves and not worry so much about the judgment or what other people around us are thinking and get really clear on what matters to us. You said it, one of my core values or my core, I think you said core value, right?
Yeah. One of my core values is freedom.
Yeah.
But it could be different for like everybody has different values. And so it's just understanding what's important to you, what your values are. And then just matching that with the life that you want to live. So whether it's in your career, in your family, whether or not you have kids, how you raise your kids, like whether you work, stay home, like it's just it's important to do what feels good for you, not about
Yeah.
what you've been conditioned to think that you're supposed to want, or even like the opposite, like where people are like, no, you should, you should start your own business, or, it's just really listening to what's right for you and just understanding yourself better and doing what makes you happy.
So based on your experience, based on walking women through this process as a coach, based on the interviews you've had on your podcast, what are you seeing? Are you seeing some clear commonalities in that process of discerning what a person is meant to move towards?
Yeah. I mean, and there's kind of like different ways that you can kind of figure out what you want to do. For me, I like consciously thought, what did I used to love to do when I was a kid? Because I'm not happy with what I'm doing. I already tried like what I thought I was supposed to do. Like, what if I like went back to what used to make me happy, what I wanted to be when I grew up? And it was really weird how that came to me. It was like a divine download to, get curious about who I was when I was a child, when we are like our most free, expressive selves before all the conditioning starts to, come in and shape us. And I loved being creative. I loved playing with makeup and playing dress up. Like I was giving my friends makeovers when I was, in, I don't know, second and third grade. I was always playing with makeup. I had my own dress up clothes. I just loved it. And I loved, playing with Barbies, and like Gem and the Holograms was my favorite show. I'm totally dating myself now.
My gosh. Did you have that Barbie head?
I did have the Barbie head. I used to do her hair. I taught myself to French braid on her. And so I just thought like, wow, like I didn't know this could be a career. Like, I knew about like hairstylists working in a hair salon, and that kind of, interested me too. I had a lot of interest when I was a kid too. So like, I remember my grandma like asking me what I wanted to be. And I told her, I want to be a hairstylist. I want to be a writer. I want to be a fashion designer. I want to be a teacher. I can't remember what else, like I might've told her, and of course she was like, oh, a teacher is like a really great career to have. And so but yeah. And so all of those things, I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then also thinking about like what I was naturally good at. And so I was good at makeup. I mean, when I actually like learned how to do makeup on people as a professional, it was totally different. And I realized like, I really wasn't that great, but at the time, like I thought I was good. I felt good about what I was doing. I, was always experimenting and figuring out new things. And my friends thought I was good. And so they were always asking me to do their makeup, like in college, when we would go out, like after college, when we would like go out to the bars, like I was always doing people's makeup, their hair, and it just like felt really natural and really fun. And so that just kind of made me think like, maybe this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so that was kind of a common theme, not necessarily everyone looking to, like, I call it looking to your past, for what they wanted to do, but like just looking to their natural gifts, like what they were excited about. And then for some people, things like just kind of when they were just open to the possibility of, oh, I feel like I want to figure out something different, something new for myself. Like something would kind of like an opportunity would kind of fall in their lap, or they would start to do something and it turned out that they were very good at it and people were noticing. And so the career just kind of naturally flowed that way, or the business flowed that way. And then sometimes it's, the previous skills that you learned before. So maybe, what you went to for school, or what you did in a job that, you were good at, or that you had you had so much experience doing, you could take those skills and put it in a different, like start your own business. Like I have, one of my friends who is a coach, she, she started working for nonprofits, and she found that she was really good at raising money for them. And she also did have like a marketing degree. And so she kind of took that knowledge and then like put it in her coaching, used it in her coaching business, and found that she was really great at, marketing and building her business and teaching other people to do the same. And then another part of that is, what are people naturally coming to you for? Like, what are people asking you to do for them, or asking your advice on, wanting help with, or even just telling you like, wow, you're really good at that. Like, these are all signs to just get curious about. And I think just the more you can be open to different signs, what people are coming to you for, what the universe or whatever you believe in showing you, that's kind of how you're going to figure it out. And then the other part is, sometimes you have to try things and it doesn't work, and you just try something else. And, you know, it's not about being a failure, like, oh, my business failed. It's, you know, it's everything is an experiment, and it's going to lead you to that next step. And it's funny that you, talked about being in an MLM, because that was my first like foray into entrepreneurship. Was I did Arbonne. I was an Arbonne rep, and I liked them because I loved skincare. And I went to a skincare party and I was like, wow, this is awesome. Like, I could sell this. You know, I'm like super passionate about like skincare. I was always giving myself facials too. And so I thought, oh, I could teach other people like, you know, to use good skincare. And then they came out with makeup and I was like, oh, this is great. And so that was also kind of a clue, like, okay, I don't really want to be working for this MLM and, you know, peddling their products. Not that they're bad, but you know, that just wasn't my, that wasn't my path. But it was like a clue that, oh, okay, like here is like my first foray into having my own business and having it do with beauty. And it's not in this, like environment. This is not the right like container for it, but let me, you know, take a step out and see what else is like an extension of that. So those are my best tips on, you know, getting clear on what you want to do, getting curious.
Yeah, no, I love that. And as you were saying, those are spot on, because I started thinking about how my career has evolved, and it really is very much a function of, for me, two of them. Flow. What's flowing towards me? Because for me, I've always thought, and for some people, this is true, I must initiate, I must go out and make things happen. That's kind of the entrepreneurial spirit. You need to go out and just get after it and work hard and make things happen. And what I am learning about myself is, no, pay attention to what's flowing towards you, what opportunities are coming your way, and notice those. And it's been game changing for me.
Yeah.
I mean, amazing things flow towards me.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, what are people naturally coming to you for? That's really true. People would always, in just conversations with friends, colleagues, they'd say, you should speak more. You should teach people more. This is so clear the way you explain this, blah, blah, blah. Right. And you should be a motivational speaker. You should do these things. I was like, well, you don't just become a motivational speaker. It doesn't happen like that. There's usually a platform, a book, a course. So, but it's interesting now that you say all that really does show up. And I think it's just slowing down long enough to notice, because many of us, we just put our head down and we're just go and get busy and get to work. That's what I was doing really up until last year. I was just the key is just work hard and put more time and effort at something. Yeah. And that was not fruitful for me.
No, it's the hustle culture mentality, and it's not, it doesn't work for most people. Maybe some people it does, but.
Yeah, I think there are some people that's part of their design, perhaps, and that is how they work, and that they get lit up by that. Yeah, and they get that energy that comes from that. It moves them. It's what inspires them, etc. But for some of us, it just feels yucky. What else? I was going to tell you something else, and of course, it slipped me, but that's okay. It comes back. It always does. So people you've spoken to, are there any stories that you're thinking about right now that come to mind that are just that really classic or exemplary pivot that you go, oh, this is a perfect example of one that encapsulates? Maybe it's one of your clients or someone you've observed. Is there one that comes to mind?
Yeah, there's It was actually my first interview on the podcast, and it's one of my really good friends. And as soon as I got the idea for the podcast, I knew I wanted to have her come on and tell her story, because I just think it's so great. And it's like such an example of like the anti-hustle culture, like, working and getting away from that, because she was a personal stylist and she had, built this business, and then she had kids and she wanted to like have something that was a little bit more passive. And so she created an online course about personal styling. It was actually about like, organizing your closet and then figuring out your style. And she did like everything, like, I guess, right, like how the experts said you were supposed to do. She worked so hard, like, to make this an amazing course, to promote it. She was like burning herself out, trying, like, staying up super late, like taking care of the kids during the day and then staying up super late and trying to figure out, how to make money from this course. And she had a loyal group of, like, fans, and she's still like, it was just not working. It was such, she just had to use like so much effort, and it was such a struggle to like, sell this course, and, and she couldn't figure out what was wrong, like what was the disconnect. And so the pandemic hit, and, she had 2 young kids, and she had to, of course, like, everybody was home from school. And so then she had to start doing, like, homeschooling, school at home over Zoom. And she couldn't do anything with her business. So with the pandemic, all of us were like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I feel like, I just need to take a step back. And so she put her business on hold and just like did nothing with it. And as she was trying to find ways to, like, for her mental health, to like do more self-care, she started doing watercolor painting. And she had found, a company that did watercolor tutorials, and they like had boxes that they sent out. And so she started doing these watercolor paintings, and she shared it with me. I started doing it too. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. And as she was doing it, she's really good, for one. And it reminded her of how she had used to love being creative and being artistic when she was a child. And she had kind of stopped doing that, because of life. And so one day she painted a picture of her dog, because she was like, okay, I've been doing these tutorials. Like, let me see if I can like do my own. And she painted a picture of her dog, and she put it on social media, and immediately everyone was like, that is amazing. I want one too. Can you do my dog? And so she started painting people's pets. And this business just kind of like started. And so she basically became a watercolor artist in the pandemic, and started making way more money and had way more clients than as a personal stylist with this course. And so now, like, the course is gone. Like, she doesn't do that anymore. She's a watercolor artist. And it started like in the pandemic, like while she was at home with her kids, and as like a way to like self-soothe and like regulate her nervous system and find self-care during the pandemic and all the craziness. And she created a business out of it. And now she's like, her business is growing. She has like commissions. She's raised her prices like several times, as she should. And it's such an amazing story about how, when you just like take a step back, kind of see like what is flowing to you, like you said, and just kind of naturally see where it flows. And it was something that she loved to do. She was so lit up by it. And of course she was good. Like if I tried to sell my watercolor paintings, like I probably wouldn't get the same response. And also I'm not super passionate about like being, an artist like that and being like, and making that my business. But for her, it felt super easy. It was fun. She loved it. It energized her, like doing these paintings, where before she was always exhausted, like trying to work on this course or trying to get people to buy it. And so I just think it's a really beautiful story of that. When you are in alignment and when you are like open and you stop trying to like fight things or force things, like sometimes it just flows and it works out.
That is one of the best stories ever.
I know.
Yes to that. I mean, that's joy all around.
It is.
And doing something you so love, and people are so thrilled. I mean, who doesn't want the watercolor of their pet or their whatever? I mean, just I can't. And here she's just doing it and posts it. Oh,
Yeah.
I love that
It was
story.
as simple as that. Just
So
sharing
much.
it with people that she knew and loved.
Yeah. I think what this comes down to as we wrap up is, um, making our plans and holding them loosely. You know what I'm saying? Like pursuing things and exploring things and not seeing an experiment as failure, not seeing a job that you leave as failure. That it is all good information. These are data points. This is trial and error. And some of us learn by trial and error. I'm learning that about myself too, is sometimes I have to try and fail or try and learn. And that's some of the best stuff I can do.
Oh, absolutely.
As opposed to jumping right into something and being assured success. There's a lot of things I'm very good at, but I think that is far more powerful. And then for me, it's talking about it. One of my best attributes, I believe, is that I don't have a problem just spilling my failure. And I don't even like using that word. My failure, my mistakes, my misgivings, my judgment. So in this podcast, invariably, every episode, I end up admitting where I was so in my echo chamber, where I was so wrong, where I was so judgmental. But for some reason, I think that people are endeared to me because of that, maybe because of the transparency. And so what I thought, who knew that something like that could be a benefit to me in my work, in my life? But it is, because when I do workshop facilitation with women, when I speak, I'm very candid and I'm very open and I'm just honest and relatable, and sometimes to a fault. And people love it. They love the real me, I guess.
Yeah.
So so that to me just speaks to that. I love it so much. Oh
yeah. I don't know if you've heard Sarah Blakely, this story that Sarah Blakely tells, Sarah Blakely from Spanx.
Spanx. Yeah.
I think, isn't she one of the first female billionaires, or the first?
Yes,
maybe?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
And
I don't know the story behind that.
Well, this is just a small story that she tells as part of growing up about failure. And so most of us think failure is bad. We were raised to be afraid of failure. Like sometimes we're so afraid to try something because we're afraid of failure. And so we don't. And so when Sarah, I believe her father was an entrepreneur, and they would be around the the dinner table, and he would be like, okay, so he wasn't interested in what went right. He was like, how did you fail today? And so her, and I believe she had siblings. I heard the story a while ago. And so they were, encouraged to tell their dad or tell their family about something that they had tried to do and it didn't work out. And then he would say, what did you learn from that? And I just love that. And so having that mentality of failure is just a lesson. It's just a learning experience, and you're going to learn more and grow from it it's just so refreshing. And it's such a great mindset to have when you are an entrepreneur, because not everything is going to go perfect. It's a lot of trial and error. You have to figure things out. You have to sit in the uncomfortable space of, gosh, that didn't work out how I wanted it to. And what can I do different? And so I just love that story that she shares.
I do too. And that points back to your point earlier that everything, but especially maybe entrepreneurialism definitely lends to this, that we are constantly needing to grow and learn and work on ourselves. And I was reminded of a masterclass I was in, I think 2 weeks ago, with Dr. Valerie Rae, and she was talking about that sometimes the work is that work on ourselves. And she said, don't be surprised. She was talking to a group of female entrepreneurs, but I think this can apply broadly. If about 90% of your work is personal development, and about 10% is your work in your business.
Yeah.
And I was like, what?
Yeah.
But then this morning, fun fact, I'm sitting there, just having some quiet time and kind of journaling and just getting my thoughts onto paper. And I thought, well, why not? If I feel called to be developing myself and really getting to know and understand myself, be really curious, and to be able to trust myself. That's something for me I'm really working on right now, is getting to know myself deeply and trusting myself. And I think that's important for all of us. And if I do that, then that 10% is going to be a badass 10%.
Exactly.
And that is going to be just fine.
Yeah, it is.
And because who's to say that 10% isn't, 10% can be amazing.
It can. Mm-hmm.
It's not a pittance, whether it's financially or effort wise. It might be right on time. It might be just right.
Yeah.
And so that's a total mindset shift, but I really thank you for synthesizing that. I feel like that got distilled down to where it needed to go. And what if that's possible for all of us, is that this self-exploration and this curiosity about, what did I love when I was a kid?
Mm-hmm.
What do I love doing now? What just gives me pleasure and, or helps me mentally to deal with a lot of the angst and stuff I'm feeling right now, like watercolors.
Mm-hmm. What
is wrong with asking those questions and really doing this fun, juicy self-exploration, and then learning and probing and being more curious and delving a few things out? And boy, then that 10%, we're mining gold, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
it just makes it easier to do that 10%.
Right. Now, this is very much possible for every single one of us, and in our own ways and in our own approach. And whether it's at the job we're at, whether it's in our businesses, whether it's what we do at home as we set up our home and raise our kids, whatever it looks like, it's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. This is fun. I love talking to you, Melissa. Every time we talk.
I love talking to you too.
we're newer friends, but we're friends for a long time. Yes. I know this already. And I'm just grateful to you. Thank you. Thank you again for your podcast. Y'all, I'll put everything in the notes. Your hearts need not be troubled. You will find everything you need to find Melissa Hoffman in the show notes. And for now, thanks, Melissa. And I hope you all have a great week. We'll see you next time. Listen for Real is produced in Rockland, California, and is edited and mixed with the help of Mark Edward. Our music, entitled Zero, is written and performed by Shannon Curtis. If you believe conversations like these belong in the world, please subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. And even better, share it with someone else as a real conversation starter. We'll see you next time.